Faxination 2016 supports both SMS text messaging and MMS multimedia messaging. SMS text messaging can be configured using a hardware GSM modem that's physically attached to the server or through one of several available Internet protocols to an SMSC service provider. MMS multimedia messaging is only available through the MM7 Internet Protocol to an MMSC service provider. Due to advances in mobile device technology and wireless Internet services, the market for business-related MMS messaging has largely disappeared, but the Faxination MMS device is still available if you have an application for it. SMS stands for Short Message Service, more commonly referred to as text messaging. For direct communication with an SMSC or Short Message Service Center, Faxination supports the SMPP Internet Protocol, which stands for Short Message Peer-to-Peer. For hardware GSM modems, Faxination supports GSM, Ericsson, Nokia, Falcom, and Wavecom protocols, with the standard GSM being the most common. SMS via TAP, or Telelocator Alphanumeric Protocol, is supported, although largely obsolete. The handling of outgoing messages larger than 160 characters is configurable. Inbound routing can be based on the sender's mobile number or text triggers within the message. You can generate outbound messages through Exchange or SMTP email, SAP, and the Universal Output Connector in plain text mode, but the most common implementation is via the Faxination Web Service Connector triggered by automated processes. Mobile messaging is not available in the entry-level Faxination version. It requires Faxination Standard Edition or higher. Although uncommon, it is possible to send outbound SMS messages via Outlook using the SMS address space. Mobile templates can be used to prefix the email subject to the SMS message. Otherwise, the email subject will be ignored by Faxination, and only the text in the message body will be transmitted. It's common to use an SMSC service for mobile messaging in the United States. Here we see an outbound SMS message initiated from an Outlook email. The Exchange server passes the message to the Faxination server, which then transmits the message to the SMSC for delivery. Once successfully delivered to the SMSC, Faxination will generate a success notification when notifications are enabled. Just as with sending a text message from your mobile device, there is no confirmation that the recipient has actually received the message. Our notification only indicates that Faxination has successfully completed its part of the message delivery. The SMSC will determine the mobile carrier that is currently responsible for the recipient's mobile number, and then pass the message directly to that carrier for optimized delivery. The major advantage of using an SMSC instead of a local hardware modem is speed. A typical GSM modem can process about 3 messages per minute, whereas an internet-based service can handle 12 messages per second or more. In applications such as weather alerts, industrial emergencies, or campus evacuations, where a message delay could put people at risk, the higher messaging rate of an SMSC becomes mandatory. The Faxination mobile device configurator is similar to other Faxination devices. Mobile device is the name used in the connector contract. Machine is the name or IP address of the server that is running this device connector. And the wake-up port for the mobile connector is 54501. Remember that each type of device connector has a unique UDP wake-up port. This list is available in the Faxination 2016 Administrator's Guide. As with other device connectors, you can configure IP addresses or ranges that are allowed to establish connections to this device. On the Connectivity tab, the left pane identifies the kernel that this device connector is associated with, and the right pane lists one or more Faxination services for this device. The Advanced tab allows you to set the interval in seconds between checks of the Faxination queue for new outbound messages. The default is 20 seconds. Back on the Connectivity tab, we can highlight a service and click Configure. First, we have the service name. This should be short and descriptive without spaces or special characters. The provider address is for internet-based services. Set the messaging direction for this service. The number of messages to process per session. how to process delivery notifications when they are provided by the SMSC. The Advanced button allows you to configure the format of the text data, such as plain ASCII, IA5, Unicode, or binary. The Inbound tab allows you to set the temporary storage path for incoming messages, and the service routing ID for incoming messages that cannot be matched to an inbound Faxination recipient. On the Outbound tab, you can set the outgoing message size. Note that if you're using a mobile template that adds information to the message automatically, like the subject line, you'll need to take this into account. If splitting is not enabled and the message size exceeds the maximum, the message is rejected. If splitting is enabled, you can set the maximum number of messages to split. If the total message exceeds the maximum message size times this value, and truncation is not enabled, the message is rejected. You can also choose to truncate or cut off a message that exceeds the maximum size. The message will end with ... On the Protocol tab, we can set the Internet protocol to use for Internet-based services. You can enter a friendly description of this configuration. This is for the administrator's reference only. You can set the maximum message size supported by this provider, set the maximum number of days before an undelivered message expires, and when using a hardware GSM modem, you can choose to send outbound SMS messages without storing them on the SIM card of the device. You might choose to do this for security reasons. Enter a PIN code if required by the SIM card in the hardware device. You are asked to enter this twice. If a PIN code is required but entered incorrectly, the SIM card may be deactivated and require replacement. Send and receive timeouts in seconds, and some SMSC-specific information such as PDU or text mode. On the Hardware tab, select the type of hardware or service. These options change depending on whether you're using a hardware device or an Internet-based service. A friendly description for administrator use. Initialization strings for hardware modems. These are standard AT commands. And the RS-232 serial port settings for hardware-based devices when applicable. As mentioned earlier, most real-world applications for SMS text messaging via Faxination are outbound only and driven by automated processes. Fenestrae has many customers in the banking and financial industry. It's common for a bank to offer a service that sends automated alerts based on user configurable criteria, such as credit or debit on an account. However, there are some inbound SMS applications that exist. For example, many modern vending machines are capable of phoning home when they require servicing or restocking. The communication can be combined with web services to automatically dispatch a service technician or add the machine to a restocking route. Faxination 2016 can also send and receive MMS Multimedia mobile messages. This functionality requires a service agreement with an MMSC supporting the MM7 protocol. Faxination's document conversion encapsulates the supported file types, which include multiple audio formats, image types, and even PowerPoint presentations. MMS messaging requires the installation and configuration of two Faxination components, the Faxination MMS Device and the Fenestrae MMS Service. The MMS device communicates with the MMS service, and the MMS service makes a connection to the MMSC provider. For the MMS device, the General tab allows you to configure the service name and the direction of the messages. The Inbound tab defines the folder for temporary storage and the service routing ID. The Outbound tab sets a limit on the maximum time for message delivery. The default is 4,320 minutes, or 3 days. And the Advanced tab defines the local MMS service address and the external address of the MMSC. For the Fenestrae MMS Server service, the Communication tab defines the host name, port, and subpath of the machine that exposes the MMS service. The MMSC Outbound tab defines the URL, credentials, security certificates, and the settings provided by the MMSC. The MMSC inbound tab defines the URL used by the MMS service to listen for new inbound messages. And the Advanced tab defines the SQL resource, database, and SQL credentials for storing persistent information related to MMS messaging. The MMS message flow is very similar to SMS. In this example, a message is generated by an Outlook user through the Exchange server and then on to Faxination. The MMS device makes a connection to the MMS server service, which in turn communicates with the MMSC. The MMSC then makes a direct connection to the mobile carrier that is currently responsible for the mobile number of the recipient.